This week on RSBANDB Update, we unveil details of the Golden Cape hunt and the reasons behind what likely delayed the Max Cash update. Also, with the Necromancy reveal imminent, we delve into the importance of hype and expectations within the RuneScape community. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 936, recorded Thursday, May 25th, 2023. I want to believe. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us again for another episode of RSBANDB Update. We got some late news this week that we're going to be starting off the show with in just a minute, but hello, Tanis.
Hello, Shane.
Also joining us this week is Zerdones. He had a wonderful idea that we need to talk about why content is delayed sometimes, and with you having a foot in the software development industry, it just seems like a natural fit that we can kind of have a bit of a discussion about that, so welcome back to you.
Yeah, happy to be here. Glad to be back.
And of course, if you're joining us for the first time, you can find full show notes at update.show. We're also in-game at Friends Chat, BitsBytes, and our Discord is rsbnb.com/Discord. I am in-game at Shane12088. Tanis is at Tanis79, and Zerdones is just Zerdones. I love it always when we have people on the show who don't have numbers in their names. I'm going to say that again and again.
It's so nice.
I know. All right, so we're back with another event following off of the success of the Golden Party Hat. This time we have the Golden Cape. And with this and the Jagex accounts and the Jagex launcher entering open beta, this is a way for people to celebrate, they say. So, from May 30th until June 26th, we will embark on the Golden Cape hunt. And they say this harkens back to the Golden Party Hat hunt of 2021, where you will get 8 shards to make the new tradable Golden Cape cosmetic, plus other bonuses along the way. And, you know, I think we all remember that being a very, very special time back in RuneScape history, the Golden Party Hat hunt. But now we have the Golden Cape, so you can pop on your Golden Cape, your Golden Retro Armor from last week, and, of course, your Golden Party Hat. And you can have an episode full of luxurious gold. You know, I think that's
King Midas.
Yeah, I think that would be a fun way of promoting this. You know, just deck yourself out in the gold, so to speak. All right, we'll go through the tasks in a minute, but where are you guys at in terms of how this lands?
Yeah.
You know what I was thinking is that it might be a way to keep the Golden Party Hat prices up. Kind of gives it a little bit of demand, right? Because
you got
undoubtedly. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and undoubtedly people will be doing what Shane said, you know, it'd be like all gold from like head to toe and stuff. Right?
And I mean, who hasn't wanted something like that in the past? I mean, it did look tacky at one point, but now it looks rather nice, I must say so myself.
Well, now we have actual metallic textures.
Yeah, metallic textures.
Different.
Yeah. So obviously, this is the summer push to bring people in into the game, up the accounts.
Bring accounts in anyway.
Up the accounts, see how it lands. I don't think this is going to make as big of a splash as Fresh Start.
No,
because we all know that the Golden Party Hat last I looked is like 140 mil or something like that GE price. So it's definitely something that is relatively expensive, but it's not, you know, multiple
very
bill
affordable.
Rare. Yeah. And
relative to other rares, it's quite affordable.
Yeah, compared to. So the question is, how many people are going to take part in this and re-up membership on 1 or 2 extra accounts for this, based on this? And I think that's what we come down to at the end of the day. Just like the Golden Party Hat hunt, it's going to be a game of increasing the number of subscriptions that RS3 has. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's what we're about behind this.
There's the other problem that the Golden Cape could run into, and I don't know if it will, but because you know, you on one side you do have the the fashion, the looking good aspect, but on the other hand, it could just uh, the Cape spot is such a prestigious spot in RuneScape. So many
Trim, comp,
choices,
mask,
so many,
max.
right? Like,
120K.
are you really gonna? I don't know, man. You know what I mean? Like, will you take up that spot for that? It's a bigger it's more of a choice than your head slot because what you gonna you'll wear a party hat in place of a helmet or something like that's no thing.
And keep in mind the party hat was 20 years of RS.
Yeah.
And this is for what? Jagex accounts?
Does. Yeah, Jagex accounts is the stated reason.
So, I mean, there's a big difference there. And I think you hit the nail on the head, Tannis. That's entirely right. Is that it's going to be something that's going to fight for, all the other capes of accomplishment. And you'll note that they're saying it's not a golden cape, it's a golden cape cosmetic. Now, does that mean it's a token that's going to be tradable? Or is that going to mean that it's not tradable? Or is it going to mean that you can, that it's a cape and they're just doing it a
so it is
going
to be, I think it is going to be tradable. They do say that
limited time tradable item.
It sounds like it's going to be a cape, not a token. It's going to be a wearable cape.
And then that makes sense why they're also giving away the keepsake keys to go with this then.
Yep. But it's a no stat cape.
Yeah. Right.
So it's not competing with skill capes or the Zekar capes or any of those.
Only in prestige.
Yeah, only in Fashionscape.
And with this, you also get the golden security buff, a 5% chance to reduce damage taken by 99% to both typed and typeless damage. They say that boss timers, enrage, and high scores will not be updated when the buff is enabled and activates at least once during the kill. In group settings, any player with the buff enabled who has it activated at least once during the kill will disable the boss timer, enrage, and high score updates for any player in the group. That makes sense. It's sensible. And then you also have the Golden Consignment, which provides a guaranteed porter effect, which transports valid items to the bank when gathered while the buff is active. Both of these buffs can be enabled or disabled by the Wise Old Man in the Grand Exchange at any time, and these buffs are available to use for 28 days once you complete the hunt, and disabling the buff will not stop the 28-day timer that begins once you earn the buff. So you can turn it on and turn it off as you please with this. I don't know. I feel like the golden security buff and the golden consignment are, equally as appealing as the cosmetic cape, if I must say so myself on this.
I don't know. I'm not wildly enthused, personally. I think the golden security buff is kind of nice, but it's too random to be exciting
on it, right?
Because it's a 1 in 20 chance.
Okay.
To essentially negate one hit.
But
that one hit, maybe that's
5 damage.
Maybe it's a chicken hits you, or maybe it's it's a rezo snipe from Gerardor or whatever, or maybe it's one of Zamorak's knock you into next week attacks. I don't know. It's completely random.
It's not something you're going to count on. You're right.
Yeah, it seems like if you're pushing enrage at an enrage boss, or you're trying to get a good timer, turn it off because it's not worth it. Anywhere else, it's all right, whatever.
And then the golden consignment is kind of like our premier artifact porter thing, which just makes it so that if you're doing something there where you're portering, you're going to use less of your porters that you have in your Grace of the Elves and whatnot.
Yeah, it's 3 infinite porters for a month.
Yeah.
Which, if you're doing 7 of those porters, I don't know, maybe I'll finally get around to hunting Inquisitor staff pieces.
Oh, God.
Or something. I don't know.
Oh God, yeah, and everybody always remembers the spear because that one's got the
Oh yeah,
the more staunchly rare one. But I mean, hey, good time to go for 200 mil archaeology, I guess, if that's what people want to do. Tanis, which of these buffs, in addition to the cape, are you feeling hot about right now?
I don't know.
It seems like we're kind of flat on this, aren't we, compared to the golden party hat hunt?
Yeah, this doesn't excite me
Yeah.
the way the party hat did.
It's because it was a party hat. It's because it was at Christmas. It's because it was 20 years.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I think the engagement metrics are going to say the exact same thing on this.
I think it's going to get engagement because, like,
you think people are going to do it on more than one account like they did with the party hat?
Well, what did the first golden party hat sell for? Do we remember?
I feel like it was.
I don't.
I feel like it was.
I'm sure.
I feel like it was in the bill range, and then over the next weeks, it came down to the 400 to 500 mil, and we've settled at about 100 mil. A week after, a couple years after.
Yeah, I mean, if this is anything like, if it's the same drop rates as the golden party hat shards, this is going to be a couple days work for maybe, if you're lucky, maybe a bill, maybe a couple 100 mil.
Yeah,
I think people are going to do this.
Yeah, okay.
I think people are going to do this for the money. And some people will do it for the fashionscape.
Right, because for somebody who doesn't have any, cash and needs an injection of cash, if you don't like the way it looks, this is this will probably at the start be enough to get you a tier 90 weapon like a Nox, sword, scythe or something like that, right?
Yeah, probably.
So, I guess that's an interesting angle on it too. So the ways you can do this are, the first one is linking your RuneScape account to your Jagex account. This will get you 2 shards, and you can see they're definitely dangling the carrot in front of you for this one to try and get you to do this.
What I love about this is I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but they are leaning hard into the alt accounts because they said every character on the Jagex account will get the 2 shards.
Yep. And also, this wasn't in the news post this week, but speaking of Jagex accounts, you can have up to 20 accounts on your Jagex account now this week.
Yeah, they are begging people to create multiple accounts.
That's what it's all about, just making it easier, isn't it? Okay.
Well, yeah, it's the carrot. It's the carrot on a string.
Yeah, and we'll get to the big carrot. I feel like this is one of those little mini carrots you buy that's already pre-cut, but we haven't got to the big carrot yet. We'll get to that one after. Combat XP for a chance, Artisan XP, Gathering XP, Support XP, fairly self-explanatory. There's our first 5 tasks. Completing clue scrolls is one as well. That'll probably have a similar path for that. Defeating any boss for a chance to receive 1 shard. That's going to be a fun one.
That's probably also the same as the golden party hat.
Yeah, I mean, just go camp the Dagonoth Kings or something like that, right?
Archglacier,
normal mode, because normal mode worked, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then completing new foundations, Murder on the Border, and Unwelcome Guests gives you 1 shard, which, according to this, in terms of where we're anticipating things will go, this puts us on track then for a July release of the next quest, which kind of tees you up ready to go on that.
Yep.
Purchasing 1 shard can also be done from Nick the Trader for 25 mil gold or 10,000 Protean items.
That I found interesting.
They're trying to sink Proteans.
They're trying to sink Proteans. They realize that they've put too many in the economy.
And there's people who will do that.
I need lots of them.
Oh yeah, I'm not giving any Proteans away. That's how I do most of my Yak Track tasks. I realize that might not be efficient, but that's how I do it.
If they think there's too many, then it's going to be harder to get. And
we've seen that already with Treasure Hunter.
Well, yeah, absolutely. They've already drastically reduced how many of them you get.
And of course, also if you have Premier Club, you get 1 shard as well on that. So based off of that, that's like what? 3 or 4 of them are easy if you want to give up 25 mil. on that, so you're basically half done at that point on day one.
Yeah, I will have 4 on login when this launches.
Yeah, so that's what? New Foundations, Premiere.
New Foundations, Jagex account,
Yeah.
Premiere, and yeah, that's 4.
Okay, so you could even take it then up to 5 then if you wanted to give the 25 mil gold or 10k Proteans away.
Yeah, you can get 5 quite. Well, I mean, Premiere isn't trivial.
No, it's not. But I feel
you
like
already
that's
have it.
yeah.
Like,
if you already have it.
Like I feel like if you are playing the Yak Tracks and you have anything but the $5 a month membership plan, Premiere each year is a no-brainer.
I mean, I think even without,
Okay.
like it's well, because Premiere now is no different from the 12-month subscription.
Yeah, and you can buy it
So
at any time.
on a pure cost basis,
Yeah.
it's better than anything else. And then you get all the extra Premiere stuff on top of that. So yeah, it's a no-brainer, I think.
Yeah. And the big question for me that comes out of this at the end of the day is how is this going to compare engagement-wise compared to Fresh Start? Because that's the last thing we're comparing to. And
I think it's going to be hard to judge because this is going to be the Golden Party Hat all over again. This is going to be people making 10, 15, 20 accounts and just AFKing skills for a couple days.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's too hard, too vastly different to compare.
So based on that, then, do we read in that it'll be better than Fresh Start?
But I don't think you could compare the two.
I think the numbers will make it look better, because I think it'll create more accounts in the game.
That's
but
what
I
I was
think
going for.
Those accounts are going to drop off
So much quicker
precipitously.
than Fresh Start. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my expectation is short burst, very, very slow tail.
Well, and this is looking for accounts, right?
Yep.
Like, this is all about the accounts. That was about trying to find players. Like, no matter how it shook out, they were trying to find players. Whereas,
but it's the same thing at the end of the day. It's a membership subscription.
But no, I was actually just thinking about this. So, what do you do if we've talked about this for a long time? Like, how does Jagex grow the audience? How do they
Right?
do this or that? You turn in every subscription into 4 subscriptions, 5 subscriptions, because you turn them into accounts. Like that person.
Yeah, and we've had this discussion before, whether or not that's healthy for the game.
I don't know about. Well, I mean, it's like it makes complete sense.
It does in the short term, but is it sustainable into the long term?
If they can keep coming up with reasons for people to continue subscribing to multiple accounts, then it has the knock-on effect of Jagex has more money, which means Jagex has more money to put into content.
Yeah. And
that's theoretical. That money could go to other places.
Of course, or it could, go to hiring more devs, or it could go to increasing salaries, or it could go to, who knows what, right? So, no, seriously,
or it could go to who owns them now. I can't keep track. Is it still Carlisle?
Yes.
Yeah, dude,
okay.
That will go to shareholders' pockets. Some of the dollars might go to like, maybe like the staff on one of the members' yachts, but yeah, that's called trickle down, Shane.
I know that. I see that, and that's perfectly fine. And that's the thing. At the end of the day, I think that's the way it's going to go. What you said, Zertone, short burst, and then after that, we'll see where people go and what happens with these accounts into July. Because based on this, we have a sneaking suspicion that Woodcutter's Grove will probably be June. July will probably be the next quest in the series, and then we head into late July, early August. We start looking at this thing called Necromancy, maybe. So with that, the question is, can you ride this for long enough that it keeps the hype going? And interestingly enough, I was just thinking about this in relation to other stuff. When it comes to tentpole content, is this a replacement for that? I don't think it is, but at the end of the day, it comes down to numbers on a balance sheet. So I think that's where we land with this. But I will be taking part on this on one account for sure. Zerdones? 1, 2, 3?
I'm going to do it. Probably just one, but we'll see.
Tannis?
1, perhaps, maybe 2, but
okay.
at least 1.
Yeah. I mean, at least based on what we saw, it won't be too difficult to pull off based on what the Golden Party Hat ones were. But
yeah, I mean, I'll be halfway there on day one. I'd be a fool not to.
Exactly. That's a carrot. That's a medium-sized carrot. We had the small carrot of the two shards. The medium-sized carrot is you're halfway there. But here's the big carrot. Here's the big, huge carrot. The biggest carrot that you've ever seen that's going to be pulled out of your backyard garden. Accounts who are moved over to the Jagex account system will have a longer AFK period than 5 minutes that they're intending to launch in August this year.
Oh,
yeah, that is
RSBANDB. Here we come. Their time has come. They're coming out of the shadows. We're here. We've been working for y'all all these years.
And you know what the funny part about this is that eventually everybody will have a Jagex account, but this is the biggest carrot to get people to convert to that right away.
Yeah.
Well, it's the biggest one. I think the biggest one is we're going to force you to do it, which
eventually,
I seem to recall being on the table.
It is on the table that it will happen inevitably, but not like by August, right? So
now how?
Yes, it's interesting to me. Like given that the long-term plan is we're going to make everyone be on Jagex accounts. You will not have a choice. It's interesting to me that they're putting this on now.
Oh, there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
Are we thinking that Necromancy will be an AFK-able skill, and you'll want those extra minutes of AFK timer?
Oh, you are way more optimistic than I am. I was thinking they're trying to juke the stats.
Oh, that's something as well, I guess.
I was thinking they want
just
to increase the uptake numbers.
Just increase the number of people and the amount of time people are in game.
Well, I'm not even saying increasing the time in game. I'm just saying, like, this is a thing people have been asking for literally years. That they're locking behind Jagex accounts. Call me cynical. That seems like trying to make people get a Jagex account.
Oh, so
which says to me they want to increase their numbers.
Oh, so you didn't mean increase the analytics of the amount of time people are playing, just increase the number of people who are using Jagex accounts faster.
Yeah, I mean, call me cynical. This seems like they're trying to make Jagex accounts look good in a quarterly report.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Okay.
Seems like yeah.
No, and I mean, people are going to say that that's a bad thing to do, but at the end of the day, we have to realize that Jagex is owned by an investment company, and these investment companies who put money into Jagex, presumably, do want to see progress with their investments. Yeah.
Yeah, and like from a financial standpoint, stuff like this is kind of hard to justify because this is basically like you don't make money on this.
No.
This is a money sink project. It's an important money sink project. But if you have to justify your budget, like you don't go and say, "Give me more money. I'm going to throw it at a bottomless pit of tech debt."
Yeah, and you know,
that does not make the accountants happy.
I think we started this whole adventure of Jagex accounts and whatnot with the login lockout.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that actually. Yeah.
So, and then they also have the FAQ about why you would want to update yourself to a Jagex account, of course, mentioning the security, and then we got the whole long infographic about how to do that. And I have to say, it's easier than they make it look, because they're making this look like, an 8 to 9 step process here for updating yourself to a Jagex account. It's actually a lot less painful than this infographic makes it look to be, and that was my initial thought when we first saw this infographic a few months back. So, but at
it
the
looks
end of the
long,
day,
but it's not so bad.
No, and I need to underscore again that the one thing that Jagex accounts really do well is that they do two-factor authentication properly in an industry standard way, whereas now if somebody gets into your account through email or whatever, you wind up in a situation where they can just turn off the authenticator. That's not true with the modern Jagex account system. So
on that note, though, I do want to emphasize that I want to emphasize to anyone listening, if you move to a Jagex account, make sure you always have access to your 2FA.
Yeah.
So, make sure that you use an email address that you have access to. Yeah. If you switch to using the app, make sure you write down those backup codes in a secure location. Because as someone I know discovered recently, if you lose access to your authenticator, Jagex cannot help you.
Yeah, exactly. I have mine backed up in my password manager, which is backed up in the cloud, and there's certain things in the password manager that are actually printed out as well, just in case there's a question of access to that too. So that's actually a good point.
And if you lose access to this, your account is gone
for good.
Yeah, they cannot what I've been led to understand is that Jagex support cannot remove the authenticator from Jagex accounts. They cannot reset access. If you lose access to your authenticator, you have lost your account forever.
And I feel like at that point, it's also good to say that in a recent update to Google Authenticator, they actually made it so that thing cloud syncs by default now, which it didn't before.
Don't like that feature.
Well, okay.
I mean, that's kind of a mixed bag. I'll be honest with you. I can see why you don't like that feature, but at the same time, if you lose your device...
Well, I don't like the feature because security researchers have discovered that Google is not encrypting those tokens in transit, so they're very easy to steal.
Oh.
That's kind of a problem.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just found that out.
Maybe don't. Yeah. Not great. Not good. I don't like it.
Oh my god. This is one of those moments on the show where we need video just to show how friggin' dumbfounded my face looks right now. Why? It's 2023. Yeah. Thank you for that.
2023 and you're Google. You should know better.
So what you're saying is that from Authenticator, you're better off exporting them to QR codes and printing them and saving them somewhere secure.
Yeah, save your backup codes because you get 5 backup codes and you can regenerate those if you run out. And yeah, you can export to a QR code as well if you use Google Authenticator. And probably other Authenticator apps too.
Yeah.
That's the only one I use. That's the only one I know.
Yeah. Boy, that's taken a completely different turn than I was expecting it to.
We kind of ended on downer, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Anything else on the Golden Cape Hunt or the Jagex accounts before we move on to our patch notes for the week?
One thing that you skipped over is they upped the character limit per Jagex account.
Yeah, we already mentioned that. 20 accounts now.
Did you mention that?
Yeah,
okay.
We did.
I'm sorry.
We did, but we'll say it again.
Okay. 20 accounts.
I don't know anybody who has that many. Do you guys, Tanis?
Oh. I know people with spreadsheets.
Oh, God!
Yeah, I was talking to someone the other day who has 30.
Active? membership?
I don't know about membership.
Not
They say
membership.
I don't think they play them all actively, but they have 30 accounts that they cycle through
It's
apparently.
like it depends, but it depends on the occasion, right? Like there are occasions that they will bring out the whole fleet.
Like,
it
say,
just
for example, Golden Cape shards,
yeah.
for example.
The fleet. The fleet of accounts. Amazing. Just imagining that. All right. Woo. All right. Patch notes. They added the campfires back that were initially removed alongside the Karamja graphical rework. I know that was a topic of discussion from time to time about what was lost in the graphical updates that came out a few weeks back. For the achievement Gross Misconduct, demons now only count as 1 to 1 for the progress on that achievement. I think that's an interesting change to make there, because that's the one that requires you to kill 144 demons in the wilderness. Do we know what this was doing before then? Because it says demons count as 1 to 1. Does this mean...
I'm assuming this means that there were some demons that counted for multiple, but I don't know the specifics.
I know when that came up for me, I just went for abyssal demons.
Oh, I just went hellhounds.
Okay, yeah, simple enough.
Yeah,
right? Because you're a clue person.
Yep.
Slayer wildcards now have a grand exchange buy limit of 500 per 4 hours, and artisanal gears now have a grand exchange buy limit of 10,000 per every 4 hours, cementing these two items' place in as a new tool that you can purchase for people who do treasure hunter, and of course the next generation type spring thing, I guess.
Gotta be honest, I did not, before this patch note, I did not know those were tradable.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I don't know what they do.
Which ones?
The Slayer.
Oh, the wild cards. So you know how some Slayer mobs, like the whip, the new whip, it has a higher drop rate when you're on task, or it's more common when you're on task. The wild card basically pretends that you're on task.
Oh.
So it gives you that enhanced drop rate. It also gives you Slayer experience, even if it's not your current assignment. And then it consumes the card on every kill.
Oh, on every kill?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's 1 card per kill, and it just gets you the Slayer XP, and I guess all of like the Slayer buffs work, so like the helmet and genocidal, maybe, I'm not sure, works, and then the drop rate buff.
Yeah, and right now, according to GE value, these are going for about 1,400 GP each, probably more.
I would expect more, because I mean, like the T95, or T92, sorry. T92 whip would be on there. What else is...
Khopesh?
Yeah.
Is the Khopesh on there?
The
Khopesh is on there.
No.
Khopesh is pretty inexpensive these days.
Yeah.
But maybe.
Yeah, the Khopesh and the Keys of the Crossing, all those are on there. Cinderbanes.
Oh, yeah, Keys of the Crossing.
Cinderbanes.
Yeah, Cinderbanes would be a big one. Grim Pages, too.
Yeah. What about the worm pieces from the Wildy Worm, or from Lava Strike Worms?
Are those on task only?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that. All right. Yeah, people going for the Wilderness Log now.
Yeah. Greater Sonic Wave.
Mm-hmm.
Blast Diffusion Boots. Yeah, I think those are probably the big ones on there, but that's what those are used for. And I mean, hey, if people are going to supply these things through Treasure Hunter, I think that's a perfectly fine price to pay, because keep in mind, you can of course force your daily Abyssal Demon task. I don't know. Can you force Lost Grove creatures with a mask or anything like that? I don't think you can you?
No, I don't think so. Only with the cape.
Right. And then you can also put them on preferred lists, but still it's not a guaranteed task. Yeah. So you see where these sorts of Slayer wildcards then come in useful. So And, looking at it from this perspective, initially I thought the drop cleaners would be the one that would be more interesting, but from this, it looks like the Slayer wildcards are going to be the more interesting one. So, all right. Before we move on, I want to thank our Patreon supporters for this week because you guys let us do what we do here. And just a bit of a note about this upcoming monthly bit. Normally we pull the monthly bit topic, but since we're pushing 5 years of Patreon subscription service here at RSBANDB, we decided that we're going to be doing for this month something a little bit different. We're going to be doing a retrospective of all of our past monthly bits, looking back at, why do we always learn something from the monthly bit? What was their biggest shocker? What sorts of things would we like to go back and cover again? What sorts of things did we miss? So on and so forth. So we're going to be sitting down and talking about that next week, and that's the next monthly bit that patrons will hear. But this week in particular, I'd like to thank Alfie S., Amos Reed, Andrew C., Arvids L., Beekeeper Steve, Big Huge Rat, Chunk the Monk, Cycle RS, Drama Free, Duramax, Free Milk, Jacob G., Jade Gizmo, Jason S., Jeebus, Jesse W., Kesky, Ling01, Mohan V., Nate the Great, Nick G., Pernasius, Ricky A., RS Nerdherd, Samuel FL, Scott DS, Shirt Pants, Stub Eve, The Naked Captain, The Dab and Goat, Tim, Tom V., Zant, and Zazakon. Thank you everybody for your support. As I mentioned, we've been doing these Patreon extras for coming up on 5 years now, and it's really, really quite something to see the support you guys give us each and every month for hosting and production of Update, amongst other things, but also just the what you guys bring to the community is truly appreciated. If you want to be a part of that, if you want to hear any of the past monthly bits, including things on Legacy Combat, our various tier lists, our discussion on transportation from last month, and so many more, just head on over to patreon.com/RSBNB, and there you can sign up for as little as $1 a month, and you get access to that entire back catalog. We also have a VIP tier, where for $3 a month, you'll get access to high-quality stereo versions of the show, you'll get a VIP rank on Discord, and a special chat channel, and a mention on the podcast at the start of the month. And for $5 a month, you'll receive a shout-out on the podcast each and every week and gain exclusive access to the outtakes that we use to make the clip show at the end of the year, in addition to everything else. So once again, a big, huge thank you to our Patreon supporters. We are so thankful each and every month for what you guys allow us to do here, and we're looking forward to kind of sitting down next week and just having a look at where we've been for the monthly bits, why we always learn something, and maybe provide a bit of an insight into you guys about how we go about producing those each and every month. So thanks again, everyone. Thanks so much. All right. So we figured we'd sit down this week, since it's a quiet week, and talk about some things related to just what's going on in RuneScape, and in particular, the Jagex development cycle, because we were supposed to get the max cash update this week, moving max cash beyond the 2.1 bill restriction, but it was decided that was being pushed back to June 12th for more testing and to fix bugs on it. And with that, we want to kind of just have a peek into why some of those decisions are maybe made, and ask the question, are we at a point yet where we can have no update weeks? Who wants to open us up here? Tanis or Dones, one of you guys take us away here about where we're at.
Well, okay, so I want to make a controversial statement. I mean, I know the general tone coming out of this update was negative. People were looking forward to the max cash update. I get that. I was also looking forward to the max cash update. There's a part of me that is glad that this happened, that it didn't go out. And there are two reasons for that. So reason number one is there's a conspiracy theory that I've seen floating around that this came up in particular, I think, after Extinction, when the post-quest reward was didn't really sit well with the community, and with pretty quick turnaround, we got passive Ring of Vigor. And there's a conspiracy theory going around that, Jagex just, has these. They just, make these things that people want, and then they sit on them until they need to appease the community. and then they can just pull them out and be like, aha, we have the thing that you want. You can no longer be mad at us. Our logic is infallible. And this kind of proves that that's not true. Like, it's intuitively obviously not true, because that's an absurd way to run a company. And that's an absurd way for, like, a creative to behave. But this is basically proof positive that it isn't how Jagex operates. Because, like, surely you don't think they wanted this.
No, because
Like, surely no intelligent person is arguing that Jagex, that Mod Jack is sitting in his lair, tenting his fingers,
He has a lair.
"Oh, yes." Well, his kitchen, I guess, where he has his dank light. Like, he's not sitting there going, "Yes, how can I disappoint the players today? I know. I'm going to withhold content." Like, no, obviously not.
no, that's dumb, because you're at a point, if you did that, where there's no June update.
Well, no May update. No May
Yeah,
content.
that's what I mean. No May content update. Yeah, right.
Yeah, like, there's no... Like, this looks bad for Jagex. No one wanted this.
Right, but at the same time, we need to talk about this, because there's so many other games where you have quarterly updates, and that's just the way the ball bounces. You might have a patch
Quarterly
week here
updates
and there
if
to
you're
fix
lucky.
things. Yeah, or that.
Hey, how about this for first world problems? I'm mad that the max cash didn't happen.
Yeah, when you
Because
have
I
nothing
got
else in your life to
so-
complain about.
So much cash that I'm waiting for an update so I can carry more cash. Because I got a lot of cash, guys. You know what I mean? Like, I need like a wheelbarrow.
Oh, God.
Annis, I just have so much imaginary money. I
We don't
have
know
too
what to
many-
do with
I have
it.
too many pictures of monkeys.
Yeah,
I have too many ugly ape pictures.
Yeah, and if you're already iced out, and you know, you can only carry so much. You can only use so many screenshots. Like, it'd just be easier if I could just show people my wallet, my real wallet.
Oh, yeah, we had a discussion about that last week, didn't we, too, on that. But to come back to this, it comes down to the question of, if you look at the Jagex release cycle, they very rarely hold updates back.
Yeah,
Well,
it's very uncommon.
Well, what do we always say about holding updates?
Well, that's
back?
just us. That's just us. I'd like to think that that's a smart intellectual point of view to take.
Well, I guess, but it's common sense view to take. Like,
I don't know. I don't know that it is that common of a view that it's better to hold something back to make sure it's ready.
It's definitely somewhat uncommon in software. Like, in modern software development practice, generally speaking,
Push.
Yeah, like the company I work for, before it was acquired by a much larger company, our motto was move fast, break stuff.
Nice.
And that's a pervasive cultural trend in software.
Yeah.
Is you get stuff out the door, maybe there are bugs, and then you fix the bugs later. And that's actually the second reason why I'm glad that this happened, because this proves that there is a point where Jagex says, no, we can't release this.
Right,
This is
as in then that release dates aren't hard, and oh no, some people are going to lose their banks because of this. No, we're going to actually do the excess testing that needs to be extra testing to make sure that it's going to go properly then.
And I want to be clear, I don't begrudge Jagex for releasing updates with bugs. Like, that happens in software. Just on a practical level,
we have to
you
say,
cannot eliminate all bugs.
In the last 2 or 3 years, it's gotten a lot better, I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
this isn't just any update. This is people's money. Whether you poke, I'm going to poke fun at it and stuff. But at the end of the day, this is the kind of thing that can make somebody quit and quit being a customer and be like,
Yep.
F that. No.
Yeah, this is an update that could not go wrong.
Yeah.
If this went wrong, that would be an existential problem.
Just like EOC was.
No, no.
You think this is a step
Worse.
further?
Yeah, dude. This is messing with someone's money.
I don't know that it would be as bad as EOC because any problems that resulted from this could theoretically be fixable. I mean, I say that last time I was on the show, my pick of the week was a video about another MMO that completely broke their economy by trying to retroactively fix things like this. So, you know, maybe I'm giving too much credit, but hypothetically, if they released a broken max cash update and the economy imploded, that's fixable. And
presumably with a backup or rollback
fairly quickly. Right. EOC was not fixable because EOC was a strategic decision that was never going to be rolled back.
Right.
And at this point, it is never going to be rolled back.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be rolled back.
No, we've adapted to it. And then I think with that, we kind of get into the picture of, you know, why did we get to this point? And we've been talking a lot about the decision that was made, but something that isn't immediately clear, and we're going based off of secondhand and third-hand information with this, is that it appears to us that from the outset, Jagex works on something called an agile methodology, which is built around 2 week or so long sprints of development followed by review and testing. And with that, you incorporate feedback from the previous sprint or the design into it, build and iterate for 2 to 3 weeks, review the progress, design goals, and then the problems at the end of it, and then repeat. Run and repeat, so on and so forth. And then through that, you'll evaluate if the project is on target, and then you adjust your goals and timings accordingly with that. And that's my understanding of the general sense of how Jagex works on these things, because, you know, we've heard the term sprint before. We've heard the term sprint review before when JMods were talking about their project. So that's what I'm assuming we're going into with this. And this over the years has become a standard way of doing software. And what this does is it gives you a quicker turnaround. Zerdones, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, it lets you iterate. It lets you incorporate that feedback cycle much more rapidly than other ways of doing it. I mean, the traditional way that we used to write software was we figured out what we wanted it to do. We got all of the requirements ahead of time. We built it, we tested it, we shipped it. And then that process could take months to years because you need to start, you need to do a whole lot of work to establish at the outset what you need to do.
That's why there was such a big gap in time for people who remember the mid-2000s between Windows XP and Windows Vista.
Right, exactly. Whereas what Agile lets you do is it lets you say, okay, we're going to start with the minimal set of requirements that we need to fix or that we need to implement. We're going to build that over this short period of time, and then we're going to see where we're at.
And we need to underscore and make something more clear for the listeners. By requirements, we mean what is the goals of the piece of software, the update we're talking about in question. Is it going to be something in relation to fixing community hotspots in a skill? Is it going to be a new addition to the skill, like Garden of Carid was? Is it going to be something engine related, like Max Cache was, or is it going to be something wider and more transformative, like a new skill? That's what we're talking about in terms of requirements.
Yeah, when I say requirements, I'm talking about like the functional requirements of the piece of software, in this case the piece of content, like what it needs to do at a strategic level and at an implementation level.
So then applying that to Max Cache, we're looking at something that in effect allows people to transact items on the Grand Exchange between player to player using the Grand Exchange in a more seamless manner than what we've been doing before of using the player trade window with summoning shards. And to do that, you need to ensure that you can go above that 2.1 bill cash or item stack limit and not have any problems with the game engine.
Yes.
And if
that is a problem.
And if that core requirement is violated, the entire thing becomes a broken piece of content, and you don't want that at the end of the day.
No, that would destroy the economy.
And that tells us why, in an unprecedented way, they had to hit pause on this.
Yeah.
And
I think the big question I think is going to be on people's minds is if they knew, like, when did Jagex know? Because they seemed pretty confident when they gave the roadmap a couple months ago. When did they give the roadmap? I can't even. Time is lost on me.
It was a development update. I feel like it was at the end of April.
Yeah, end of April.
God,
End of April, They seemed pretty confident about when it was going to go out.
Yeah.
So I think the natural question in people's minds is, well, when did Jagex know that they were going to have to do this, and why didn't they tell us? Why didn't they tell us earlier? Why did they say with confidence, this is going to be our May endpoll update, and then pull the rug out from under us?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's a natural question to ask. We don't know.
And to be fair, when it comes to what they talked about with the max cash limit changes at the end of April in that development update, they didn't call it a roadmap, but they also just said expect to see it in May.
Yeah, that's true. They didn't quite say, yes, this will 100% definitely, no ifs, ands, or buts, be coming in May. They did hedge. But,
But at the same time, we were wondering if there's going to be Woodcutter's Grove in there as well.
Yeah.
Actually, no, they did say May. They did say May. The infographic, the text says expect to see it in May, but under the May heading in the infographic, it does say max cash limit.
I think it's fair to say there was an expectation set that it would definitely be coming in May. And I think there is a natural question, well, why did they say that without... And then break that promise.
Yeah.
And this slightly gets into what we're going to talk about in the next segment. But I think, like, on a technical level, the way that we know Jagex operates is shortly before the update goes live, they stop adding code changes to the product. They cut what they call a release candidate build, an RC build, and then they test the ever-loving bejesus out of it.
You're going to get people laughing at you for saying that, because there's people who still think that they don't test, yeah.
Well, we know that they do. Yeah. Now we know. We have
I think
proof.
it was on the Mod Ramen Behind the Crown. We had a fun conversation about whether or not they actually test. And he had fun memes about that. I think I had to break out the censor on that.
That's probably my least favorite community meme is "We are the QA." If you ever want to get me genuinely angry, that's a really good way to do it, is just throw that at me. Because no, they QA. Of course they QA. Of course they test. Don't be foolish.
You couldn't survive modern software development if you didn't.
You absolute buffoons. Of course they test.
So... with that, then, we get to a point with the Jagex development cycle, the circular development cycle, where the no-go/go decision has to be made, and it was probably made in relation to the tests for that release candidate, where it just wasn't hitting the mark that it needed to, where they couldn't deliver it and guarantee that it would be safe to go. And like you said, Tanis, it's people's money. You don't mess around with that.
Absolutely. I think the other thing that's worth pointing out in this point specifically is they did say that it was an engine problem, and they don't do very many engine updates a year. I think they do 4 engine updates, but don't quote me on that number. I feel like that's a number that I've heard before. But it is entirely possible that because like I'm sure that the developers on this project have been doing incremental testing throughout development.
Oh yeah.
And like they have pushed the release date back a couple of times, so we know they have been doing testing. But this particular issue, it's entirely possible that it was just never. It's entirely possible that it didn't exist until some other engine change was layered on top of it. And I'm trying to avoid using too much industry jargon.
Yeah, and keep in mind that we're dealing with a non-standard bespoke game engine. We're not talking about something like Unreal or Unity. We're talking about an engine that has been around for it has been around for 20 years at this point. And the work that's done on it is within their own unique scripting language too. So there's just so many ways for things to creep into this that players don't appreciate, that we don't even have a full appreciation of in terms of what we're talking about here. And we should underscore again that our goal is to say here, we think that this is what happened. And, we have some insight into how the software design field works in Zerdones and myself on that. And there are industry standards for that. And we're just kind of reading into what likely happened with the Jagex case on this. And I think it'd be a fun thing to discuss with the JMods too at some point, what exactly happened like this. Maybe we need to, get someone on from some point somewhere in the engine side on this. I think that'd be a fun one. But
I would love to learn a lot more about how the dev cycle works internally. I imagine there's probably a lot of the stuff I want to know that they wouldn't be either willing or allowed to tell us. But
just for keeping things internal, so to speak, on that.
Yeah.
But then we get to the more macro question on this about what this means for RS updates. Because, like you said, with this, it's clear that there's no, break glass in case of emergency update here. And update cycles, in particular recent ones, like we've talked about with the Ninja Strikes, are being tailored to ship certain types of content, smaller Ninja Strikes rather than large encompassing ones, which I think is a decision that's been made consciously by the people at the producer level on the RuneScape team in terms of, hey, this is skill peer week, this is questing week, so on and so forth, and we're putting those kinds of updates out along the path. And because of that, it's become immediately clear in that they have absolute control over what they put out, and that they can tailor patch notes and the like to be focused around a certain theme. But with that, we have to ask the question, should we continue to expect RuneScape weekly updates? Because that's something we've always been told was a hallmark of the game. And I know, Tanis, you and I have gone back on this so many times in the past.
Well, I was thinking, Shane, maybe you can answer this to people that don't know, but is there a difference between the dev cycle and what we have talked about with people like Mod Warden, Mod Osborne, when they would refer to a cadence?
I think they're related.
Yeah, they're related, but not
like a wheels within wheels kind of thing. Like there's at the mod, like Mod Warden and formerly Mod Osborne, now Mod Jack, they look at the game at a much higher level than, say, a Mod Ramen would. Not to pick on Mod Ramen, but since you mentioned him earlier.
Yeah.
Like Mod Ramen, the way he probably works is probably very similar to the way I work in my job, where I have a list of tasks and I have 2 weeks to do essentially as many of those tasks as I can. Or we decide in advance like what tasks I'm going to work on. I do as many of those as I can in 2 weeks. And the end of 2 weeks, I say I had too much work, not enough work, and we adjust. And we look at the status of the tasks that I had to do. So there's a cycle of development at my level. and then my boss's boss is looking at a cycle of, okay, we're going to deliver this thing. We need to deliver these things in this quarter. And that's the level that they look at. And it's related to my day-to-day, but it is distinct in a lot of... I don't know if that really answers your question, but...
No, and you know, I think it would even be above, you know, a Mod Osborne, Mod Jack, because they're just the lead designer for RS. They choose what the content's going to do. But I think when it comes to, you know, distributing the tasks, I feel like that's at the producer and executive producer level, probably.
I feel my sense is that this has changed somewhat with Mod Keeper. I feel like Mod Warden was more
hands-on,
sort of more in the mud, in the trenches, as it were. The sense that I get with Mod Keeper is that Mod Keeper is a little bit more
rely on the team.
Yeah, he's more like setting the strategic goals, and then whoever reports to Mod Keeper is figuring out how to implement those strategic goals at their level, and so on down the chain. So Mod Keeper is looking at it as, you know, oh, we need to increase retention. We need to increase our player counts. We have retention goals. We have revenue goals. We have X, Y, Z. And then that filters down to Mod Jack, who goes to, in order to do that, we need to deliver content. What kinds of content is going to be the best at achieving those goals? And I feel like at this point, I'm basically very ineptly paraphrasing a Mod Jack live stream from a couple of months ago. As I'm saying this, I'm coming to this realization.
That's okay. And it all gets back to that question that there's not a stack of updates that are, you know, just waiting to go out on weeks like this. But it does beg the question, at what point do you admit that we're not a weekly updating game anymore? I feel like we're okay admitting that, you know, the headline is monthly with a couple of patch weeks thrown into the month. But at the same time, there is that weekly news post that says this week in RuneScape that has always been, this is the update of the week. When in reality, I think, and this is my view, and last time I went to the community on this view, I got flamed for it, is that we need to just realize that we don't need weekly content updates anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say I like that the game updates weekly, in the sense that I like that the servers cycle once a week and we get bug fixes once a week. I think that's good because it fixes problems faster. I do think you're right. Like on a purely practical level, we aren't, and I don't think realistically ever will again be a weekly content updating game.
No, and that's old school.
It's not 2001 anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, even old school, from what I understand, doesn't get weekly content updates.
No, but they have patch notes and the like, and it's probably easier to update the game. And we're painting such an interesting picture here that you really question, you know, how much can be done in one release cycle. But those old games just had, at the time, content that I feel like took us so much longer to progress through on this, but they drop a piece of content now and people are done it in less than a day. And that's the problem, and I think that's why RuneScape can't have the longer development cycle that other games have, is that people just blow through everything so darn fast.
I feel like this is on some level a cultural thing, both in terms of the player cultural expectations, and when I say culture, I don't mean like real world culture. I mean like the culture that is cultivated within the RuneScape player community, and also a Jagex development culture, because I don't play very many other MMOs. I play one, and the updates that it gets are... So I made notes on this. So the other MMO I play is Star Wars The Old Republic. The last 3 major content updates were February, August, and December of 2022. So that's 6 months, a wait of 6 months, and then a wait of 4 months. The content that was added in each of those 3 updates were you got an environment that you could explore, you got a story quest that you did once on your character, you got a series of repeatable quests, the goal of which is to increase faction reputation within that new environment. Basically like Menaphos, but in some ways worse, in some ways better. And then 2 of them added what is essentially a dungeon. And that's it.
Yeah, and
Like,
you know,
that's
on par for Stowe. That's on par for Stowe.
You get bug fixes too, and you get some like systems improvements, like improvements to basically the Fashionscape engine and things like that, or the Fashionscape interface, the map interface, things like that. But fundamentally, you get an environment, a story quest, and a lot of content that you're expected to just repeat over and over and over and over again. And I feel like RuneScape doesn't do that, and I don't think players want that, generally speaking.
No, they don't. And when you put it in that perspective, what we've got this year has been much more profound than that.
Yeah. Yeah, like, yes, we can complete... The content we get doesn't stay, and I do think that's a problem. Like, I think the game needs longer-term... It needs more long-term progression mechanics, and skills sort of do this, but we need more of them.
Yeah.
But the content that we do get, it doesn't necessarily last very long, but it's quite varied. It's much more interesting than like the grindable content in the Old Republic, which is go kill things and click on things. You have 5 missions that you have to do every day to make number go up. Why number go up? 'Cause number go up.
And what this underscores to me is that there is just this old memory of week-to-week substantial content updates from 2005 through 2013 that just is not feasible anymore in the way RuneScape 3 has situated itself today. And with that, you put the other picture on the wall, what you just mentioned for Knights of the Old Republic, you said it was?
The Old Republic.
The Old Republic. You ask anybody else in the RS community what they'd rather have, what we have now, or something like that, they're going to say what we have right now. But I have a hankering feeling that people are going to just want more. Tanis, where do you come in on this?
I feel like it doesn't matter. We haven't had weekly updates in ages.
Long time.
Yeah. So every time that I hear that, it's just like, what are you guys going on about? Like, that's just not the way that it happens anymore. And yeah, we're getting the patch notes are going along with the weeks right now, but there was a time when they'd have to scrape up everything they could, put together a monthly headliner, of a ninja update or strike.
And in all honesty, the max cash update would have been that if it would have dropped.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, well, hold on. Let's get our monthly updates straightened out first, guys. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't really answer your question, but that's where I come in at.
Yeah, I know, and I feel like this is just a discussion that either way we slice this, it's not gonna. I can guarantee you that if we brought this to the player base right now, they would take issue with this in some form or another.
Probably.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what players want is they want Zamorak support for N3 or New Foundations, Zamorak New Foundations, the Slayer update, and Max Cash, there's your 4 weeks. There's January.
Yeah.
And then do that 12 more or 11 more times.
That'd be whiplash in terms of
2023.
coverage, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, like, your head would probably explode trying to do this show if that's what happened, but that's what the players want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Zamorak can sit for 2 weeks because you got to push and rage and figure out a new boss, all that. But
And then the Max Cash stack, that's just a patch note update.
yeah,
And then New Foundations is just a plank maker. So we're being facetious here. We're being facetious here, but you get the point. But
like that's what players want. It's
not feasible.
In fairness, it's not feasible. In fairness, like you said, that is what players used to get. Like in 2001, 2004, that's what we did get.
Hey guys, I added the agility skill.
Right, exactly.
It looks like
I added the entire continent of Kandarin. It's 3 polygons.
Oh, hey, I added some new trees and 2 new hatchets.
Right, exactly.
It doesn't work like that anymore, unfortunately. So, if you want to play a game like that was adding content at a breakneck pace when it first arrived, go play Valheim. I don't know if it's calmed down since then, but that's how that was in the first while after release.
Ooh.
There's a game that I learned about relatively recently that's basically trying to be RuneScape Classic in the modern era. It's kind of, I don't know if I want to play it, but it's kind of an interesting idea. And they are doing that thing where they're just making like small little improvements constantly.
And isn't that how so many of the idle clickers got going too on that?
They might well. I don't know much about idle clickers. So
I know, and I think Factorio is another one that you can put into that basket as well. So, But with that, we move on to keeping and setting expectations, because we have this Necromancy announcement live stream coming next week, and we're only days away from that unveiling, and we need to be clear that it's going to be a little while still until players get their hands on it. And I was initially thinking July for this, but the smart money says that maybe late July, August at some point for Necromancy. But we get our first bit of information about it next week. And we need to underscore here that the path for success to failure for Necromancy starts next week with the reaction it receives in this live stream. That might sound extreme to say, but community reaction can and does have an impact on whether or not a content update will succeed or fail. Regardless on the amount of polish you can put on it. You can put as much polish as you want on an update, but if it has a bad reaction to it in the community, or it just arrives laden with bugs, it's going to flop. And with this, we want to have a bit of a look at how important setting expectations is for Jagex. And people who have been around the podcast for a long time are going to have heard this before. This is, I think, the closest thing you could probably get to the Shane and Tannis TED Talk. I think that's where we'd come in on this.
Yeah.
And we start by going, and Tannis, you just jump in whenever you want. You twos or don'ts. I'm just going to monologue a bit on this because I feel like it's just so much so cruise control when you said, let's talk about this. We go back to the openness of Jagex, and in particular, we need to start with a central premise. That what we see in terms of the openness that the developers have, in terms of how willing they talk to the community, and even how much community management interfaces with the community directly, this is something that's rare in the games industry and is so hard to find in the industry, because you can even have developers who will never interact with a player at most game studios, and that's just the way the ball bounces. And that's the standard, in that a developer will only talk to the media or talk to a third-party publication if it's been sanctioned by community management and by marketing on that. And with that, we get into the Jagex history on this, in that in the past, we've kind of moved and waned from, having very little community interaction to at some points having too much, to quite honestly where we're at right now. And I think we all remember a time and place in the past when Jagex talked too much, and with that we had individual developers announcing certain projects off the cuff on a live stream, off the cuff on social media and whatnot. And with that, there was an era, and we'll say this, the pre-2017 era, where there were just so many promises that Jagex made. They were, in a way, empty promises because they weren't able to be kept because too much information was shared. And with that, we look at the big, wide-open promises like things made at RuneFest. The first one that comes up, yep, Winter 2017 for mobile. The Church of You. Tanis, which one comes up in your mind?
Church of You.
Yeah.
The quest that shall not be named.
Right. Rite of Passage, right? That's what it was.
Say it. Don't say it. You've delayed it again, you fool.
Oh, it's okay. I'll look at Elemental Workshop instead.
Okay.
Yeah, from a chat GPT bot.
But the point is that there was a time and place where Jagex would make these wide promises about things that weren't able to keep. Like hundreds of invention perks when invention would launch, 3 months after divination launched. Obviously, it was almost 2 years later at that point. We just talked about that last week, and it was going to make items that you could, in effect, tailor to your own and then level up and then sell to other people. These are the kind of wide promises that we had in that era. And this was, in effect, very much a byproduct of the culture that Jagex had at the time. It led to updates that just didn't go well and that their communications were not on the mark. We look at things like EOC, in that EOC was something that was probably rushed out the door a little too quick, and the community wasn't necessarily heard on that the way they needed to be heard because of the way the beta testing went. So we had a bifurcated community after that. We talked ad nauseum before about the launch of EOC. Another one that comes up, Metaphos. That was summer of 2017.
And
we had
they
a fun
tried.
time with that, didn't we?
Yeah, and the funny thing was, like, Jagex actually tried to tell people what to expect without
a mid-level, a city for mid-level scalers.
Yeah, without,
which translates to 50 to 70, but people get it on launch day, and they're expecting to get good training methods north of 80, but they don't. And it's all compounded by the reputation system that launched and needing reputation to do quests. So that was a matter of not setting the expectation properly and not understanding where the community was when it came to something like reputation. And that's why we put Metaphos in the category of updates that initially didn't go over well.
Yeah. No, you still tied a good portion of the community to that content, even though they were
120 Slayer. People were expecting, new Slayer creatures, and I think we got 3 or 4 plus the dungeon.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And with 120 Slayer, you expect it to be filled out from 99 to 120, and we're just only getting there now.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and Tara, go ahead.
I was just thinking, I know there's more examples, right? But you said something important about the way it's going to be received does start next week.
Yeah,
look at just the reaction to Fresh Start Worlds. There was such a reaction,
negative reaction.
They changed, yes, and they changed what they were going to do.
All because it was leaked and they didn't control the narrative.
Yeah, and in many ways, the feedback did not make it better. Going through it, I would say it made it worse. It would have been just fine the way they intended it.
And because it was functionally, working the way it was supposed to. But another one on that list that I put is Shattered Worlds.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Remember how that was supposed to be the all-encompassing RuneScape combat experience, the climber, that was supposed to show off EOC and show off the new game engine?
What year was it, Shane? What year?
I feel like
What year?
16.
Was it 16? Yes, because in 2015, it was hot.
What?
The buzzwords were procedural generated.
Or no, Shattered Worlds was May 2017. Okay.
Yeah, 2017.
Yeah. Still 2015.
Proc gen. Dungeoneering, I think, is a little bit more proc gen, but yeah.
And we need to realize that Shattered Worlds didn't really grow into itself until we got the Ninja Strikes last year on that. That's what Shattered Worlds should have been when it launched. But it didn't do that. And that's what we need to underscore here of what we're trying to suggest needs to happen with the Necromancy announcement next week. And it comes down to the need of managing expectations on that.
Mm-hmm. You know what example springs to my mind right away? Battle of the Monolith.
Yeah. That's another good one.
Massive disconnect in how that was marketed versus what we actually got. And I don't think what we got was bad, absent there were some technical issues.
There were some accessibility issues around the edges. But aside from
there were some implementation issues. The content itself conceptually was fine, but it wasn't presented in a way that was congruent with what we were actually getting.
Yeah. And had we known what it was, you would have had a different reaction to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I start with the basic premise, and you guys can disagree with this if you want, but I feel like this is something that I'm willing to die on the hill for these days, is that 90% of the people you encounter out there are going to have their opinion on anything assigned to them by either the media that they watch and the content they consume, or the people that they hang around with. I hate to say it, but that's the way it is when it comes to how we as people act in this day and age, is that your opinion is assigned to you because, unfortunately, many of us just don't have the attention spans to do what it takes to form our own opinion on subjects.
Well, I think, not to turn this into the sociology hour, but I mean, it's not
do.
really... It's not a new phenomenon. It's a phenomenon that's become massively exacerbated by the internet. But humans are hardwired by evolution to be social creatures. So it is more... It is in our best interests to align with our social group, because that is how we as organisms survive. So people will generally... their opinions will generally align with the opinions of their social group, because that's what we've evolved to form groups and prioritize in-group cohesion over pretty much anything.
Yeah, and
which worked for us.
Yeah,
but it has some downsides.
And how I know when I see this is that in the RuneScape community, if I see somebody running with the same line of a content creator or RuneScape Twitter or RuneScape Reddit, I know that opinion was assigned to them. Just like in real life, if you see somebody spouting political talking points from a certain political party, you know that opinion was assigned to them. And that comes to what you were talking about, Zernones. Those social groups form an echo chamber, and we need to underscore that it's exceedingly easy and rewarding to be a part of communities that reinforce those views. And internet communities do that by way of rewards, like with likes and positive praise and upvotes and all that other sorts of stuff. And that's something, in effect, that we're going to about the need to manage expectations, in particular for the first impression of what we're going to be seeing next week. And as such, the release that we see next week in terms of the video and the subsequent live streams and content needs to be positive to the community at large and the media apparatus that surrounds the RuneScape community. And I include us in that media apparatus, because we talk about what Jagex is doing on that. And it'll generate hype, definitely. Definitely. Positive hype can be good, and negative hype is bad. But you don't want too much positive hype, because this in turn governs the tone and the level of discourse leading up to the releases. But it doesn't change the fact that they still need to deliver at the end of the day. And that delivery comes down to managing expectations. So what we've just talked about here is that, yes, you can have the hype generated and the PR generated by something like what we're going to see next week, but that content still needs to be delivered in such a way that manages the expectations created by the hype that we're seeing. And because of that, that's why next week is when the success or failure mark for Necromancy begins. I hate to say it, but that's the way it is.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's doubly unfortunate because this is a reveal that is going to trend towards grandiose.
Yep.
Because it's a skill. Like, we don't get skills very often. A skill is pretty much the single biggest piece of content that this game can do. This is going to be the biggest update since, I mean, if you want to count the Elder God Wars in its entirety as one update.
Then you could compare it to that, but singular.
But beyond
update,
that,
archaeology.
Singular update, archaeology. Yeah, it's the biggest update since archaeology. It's the biggest thing since 4 bosses. Like, that's the scale.
And at that point, I ask everybody listening to this show, do you understand and do you appreciate how important the community reaction next week is on this? Because if it's flat or if it's negative, there's no hype building up to Necromancy after that. I'm sorry. Like, what if it is just something that falls flat with the community? We hope that wouldn't be the case because of various focus groups and whatnot that are run, but put yourself in that boat where this turns out to be flat.
Yeah, still better than the alternative, right? Like, I think you should always have realistic expectations, and expect it to be along the same quality of like archaeology, but it'll probably be a very different, very different skill. So I try to be realistic.
It's difficult, isn't it?
It is. Well, here I can still remember a little game that is a beautiful game now. Beautiful game. They've made good on it. But if anyone remembers a little game called No Man's Sky, that'll teach you everything you ever need to know about expectations
and Spore before that,
and hype and
everything Peter Molyneux has ever said in literally his entire life.
Yeah.
I will say, I think there's lots of reasons to be optimistic about Necromancy.
It's the same team as archaeology?
It's largely the same team as archaeology. There are some differences, but like Rowley is still there. Ryan is still there. Timbo. I can't remember who else is on.
Shogun?
Yeah, probably. I mean, possibly.
Yeah, but lots of overlap in that. They have the knowledge of what worked for archaeology in terms of player reaction, what people liked about the skill, where people want their updates right now in the game on that front. And I think the hardest thing that they're going to have to sell is, if this is a combat support skill, like some people are thinking it's going to be, they're going to have to sell a major paradigm shift in how we do combat.
Whoa. I just got an idea. What if
And
you're
and
right?
now you see why we have a bunch of community content creators bookending the announcement next week.
Maybe it isn't combat support.
It
Maybe
is or
it
isn't?
isn't. Maybe we are actually, maybe we are all necromancers and we're bringing back gut eggs.
Oh, I feel like they said that wouldn't happen.
Oh, I don't think so. Never say never.
If that's not the 120 reward, I'm going to be so upset.
No.
0 of 10, literally unplayable.
No, I mean, I'd be fine if it wasn't combat support in my ideal world of how I'd like it to be. And I'd like it to be like archaeology, providing those rewards for other skills in game, make it a support skill. But rather than learning about the past with relics and artifacts and whatnot, we learn about the past by communing with the dead, and that's what the skill lets us do, if I have to design it myself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. I want it to be something that elevates all of the skills. It's going to have to touch combat, like it can't not. But yeah.
But hey, it's RuneScape. RuneScape is the game that doesn't have mounts and does everything differently. So what is Necromancy in your other games might not be RuneScape. Let's just be clear on that. And I realize this was a bit of speculation here, but delivery comes down to managing those expectations, and players need to know what they're getting, because that previous flow we've been talking about generates both positive and negative hype. Past releases, of course, and the level of fanfare set expectations indirectly for the community. Everybody who was around for archaeology is expecting a similar vibe going into this. I know that's what I'm basing my expectation on. People might not think about how they are setting themselves up to be pleased or not, but ask yourself, by what marker am I going to be judging whether or not this is going to be a successful skill? And a lot of it's going to come down to what you see new skills as, whether that's from archaeology or whether that's from days past. And we also need to say that expectations can be set directly by saying what we're generally going to be getting on release. So we next week expect to see a reveal of what the core training loop of the skill looks like, and what some of the high-level rewards are going to be, and why you're going to want Necromancy. And they showcase reward samples with that, level bands, and of course difficulty of content in RuneScape's case. So that's what I'm expecting from the live stream next week. What are you guys expecting to see from the live stream next week?
And if we get all that, I would be thrilled. I want to see the core loop. I want to see how it's trained.
Yeah.
That's my main.
And keep in mind with that they probably can't reveal too much of that if it uses existing items, whereas archaeology had its own closed ecosystem, they could. So
yeah, they're going to have to be careful about that. I know they've mentioned that the content creators who went to visit Jagex HQ are being monitored for that sort of thing, which leads me to believe that there will be some integration with the existing economy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm with you. I think the main things they need to show are how you're going to train it and why you want to train it. The only other thing I want, and this has always been my kind of bugbear about necromancy as a concept, is how it fits into the story.
Yeah.
Because necromancy is like it has negative connotations within North American culture. It has doubly strong negative connotations within the story of RuneScape. So I want to see how that is going to be handled. Like, how are we just going to go full let's be bad guys, or what?
Yeah.
That's the question I want answered.
And we'll probably learn more about that in the upcoming quest as well that's on the way.
Yes.
Another thing
Absolutely.
I need to know with Necromancy is what has changed since 2018, because when archaeology launched, we had Tannis. You remember the letter from Maud Osborne about how there were all the different skill choices they could have done, and they said that surveys and whatnot said that Necromancy was the way to go, but they ultimately found it boring. So I want to know what's changed since then.
Or maybe we get a perfectly nice, boring gathering skill.
I doubt that.
Woodcutting 2.0.
Ta-ta-ta.
I know, but there'd be people out there that would love that. But and then we come to how you set those expectations, and imagery and video are the best for doing that. They need to get that right, 110%. And we know this from the Elder God Wars teaser images that were dropped. But the number one thing that comes into my mind for this is the complicated Cape rework. People weren't on board and didn't want that update until they saw the collage of how the capes could look after that.
Mm-hmm.
That picture is what told people, hey, you want this Cape rework. So
Totally moved the needle.
Yeah, the imagery and video that comes out of the live stream next week is going to be so important in setting the tone of what people expect. And you might not think that just casually viewing it, but what you see is going to set expectations. I guarantee it.
Well, look at archaeology again. Like the live streams for archaeology showed off how beautiful the environments were, and that was a big part of getting people excited. Like I was just sort of getting into watching the live streams when archaeology happened, and Everlight was one of the most beautiful things I'd ever seen in this game at that time. And that I was so excited for Everlight when that came out, when I saw that.
Yeah. And
or the scripted videos with Maud Osborne in the tent.
Yeah, those were good.
Just getting you excited. Just Osborne dressed like Indiana Jones being ridiculous.
And it was also so important because that was pandemic, and it was just good having an eye back into how things were when they shot those.
Yes, absolutely.
So there can be even external factors playing into it. I don't think we have any pandemics planned for this summer yet. Hope not. So we don't have that going for the launch this time.
There he goes again.
Get our paperwork filed squarely away, so make sure we don't get those. Those are scheduled for after Necromancy launches, so we all have lots of time to play it.
But past examples of success where Jagex has set the expectations and managed them properly. I think mining and smithing falls into that category, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
120 farming and herblore. Yes, no, maybe so. I don't know. I felt like that.
Yeah, I would say, like, if anything, that was kind of a sleeper where people weren't actually expecting more and they delivered more.
Yeah.
They surpassed expectations.
Right, because you weren't expecting to be wowed by new training methods because you already knew how to make a potion and you knew how to take care of a farm animal.
Yeah.
But lo and behold, the potions we got were very powerful. Archaeology.
The rewards made that.
Archaeology, we've been talking a lot about that. That's a textbook success. And the Elder God Wars as a whole, in terms of creating tentpole content from Karapak all the way through Zamorak, with lore updates pretty much from June of 2021 until the first couple weeks of January 2022, which is something that was unheard of before.
I feel like Elder God Wars was another one of those sleepers, like Tanis was saying with farming and herblore, because I remember people were skeptical.
Yeah,
about it.
People wanted it. People wanted it launched all at once.
Right, exactly. There was that. Oh, they're releasing one boss a month. Boo! That's going to be lame. Yeah,
and it was done beautifully.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Oh.
It tied into the story. All of the bosses, like, they felt like they deserved time to just sit and have their spotlight.
And I feel like they were more special and more fleshed out than God Wars 1 and God Wars 2 were.
Absolutely.
So those are examples of success. And I feel like in closing, we just need to mention what we're doing to manage expectations here. From my perspective, and you guys can, of course, chime in on this, I always avoid other content creators and social media while producing content. I haven't looked at what anybody has said on anything relating to the Necromancy visit, on anything relating to what people are expecting from Necromancy, so that what you're seeing here is directly from my head and hasn't been influenced by anybody else. We're also focusing on the facts of what we know, not what has been speculated. We did introduce a bit of speculation this week in terms of which way it could go, which is fine since we're only a week away from that. But at the same time, we're not automatically suggesting that this is the next incarnation of RuneScape combat. And we also look heavily at past launches for guidance on that. Anything else you guys do to manage your expectations?
I just try to be realistic. And if I want to have fun and just speculate, I mean, I just remind myself, right? Like, to me, that's pie in the sky, funny, haha, type of thing.
Can I tell them about your initial reaction when Necromancy, when we first heard the name Necromancy?
Oh, what was my initial reaction? It probably wasn't good, was it?
You wanted nothing to do with it because you had automatically assumed it was going to be combat related.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that sounds about right.
And with that, I think I called you that night and I said, no, let's just approach this the way we approach everything, focusing on what we know, not influencing ourselves from others, and just wait until we see what it actually is. And that's been what we've done for the past 6 months.
Yeah. Like you, I don't consume other RuneScape media in that regard.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I want to be 100% clear that I'm not biasing myself and I'm not biasing our listeners, because there's a chance if I do that, it's going to creep in, right? So.
Right.
That's the way I take that. Zerdones, anything on that before we go?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you guys. I don't really pay attention to. I don't consume the only times I consume content creators are pretty much for guides, boss guides. The only social media, like I'll check in on some JMod social Twitter accounts occasionally, and I watch the JMod Bloodhound on the subreddit.
That's a good one.
But I don't scroll Reddit because it just makes me sad, and I don't watch other content creators. Don't listen to other podcasts. I don't watch other streams.
And some people might say that's not a good thing to do, but I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like
I'll chat with people. I chat with people in the RSBANDB Discord. I chat with people in the Clan Quest Discord. I'm really bad at your second point of focus on facts and not speculation, because I want to speculate. I want to theory craft. I want to have fun with it. But I think it's what Tanis said. You have to remember, you can do that. You can have fun with it, but you have to remember, you have to keep that initial reaction fresh in your head.
Yeah.
You have to remember to separate
because
you're having fun with the reality.
Because if we went in next week expecting something combat related and it's not that, we're going to come to you guys and say we're upset about this.
Yeah.
And that's why we're not expecting anything at this point. So. Alrighty.
I'm expecting a quality skill.
Yes, that is the number one thing that we hope for.
And if the skill is not quality, I will be disappointed.
And I'll tell you, I am not expecting that in any way, shape, or form.
Ouch.
Well, you've been through the ringer known as invention.
I am hopeful, and I believe things will be.
I believe. I want to believe. Right?
Yeah.
You don't think archaeology has earned them some benefit of the doubt?
Oh, for sure.
I think it has, but I don't think the community is able to see that.
Oh. I don't know. I think people liked archaeology generally, and that's going to be the major touch point for this for most people.
It's because, okay, I think that is all because it's called necromancy. If it was called thingamabobber, Nobody
I would
would
be
know
very
what to
interested.
say. Right.
I'm very interested in the thingamabobber skill.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
necromancy has been speculated for just so long.
Yeah.
It was even thought that like 2018 they might be doing something on that. So,
Yeah.
but we are going to go to Reddit right now for our final bit here. Something that Tanis could definitely use in the future, and there's a new text-to-speech add-on for Alt 1 to give AI voices to NPC dialogue. It's just a sample right now, but the idea behind this is that Alt 1 will read what is in the dialogue box and do text-to-speech on it.
Mm.
And
Isn't
you
that
already,
amazing?
yeah, and you already had audio cues where it could, read the screen and tell you when something was happening, right?
Yeah, it definitely had some of those, like with Rocketunities, I think, archaeology.
I
and
know there are
sprites.
some community-made plugins for some of the bosses as well that will do
Okay.
that.
And I had never I'd never really done much with that, but this is really cool because not only do you get, you can already do all that, but you could, I was thinking, like, I know certain bosses like Telos, for example, has things in the chat,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like cues that I never see. Like, I have no idea what
Or overhead
it is.
dialogue.
Yeah, or yes, exactly.
I don't
Or
know if this
overhead.
does overhead. This is looking primarily at the chat box, I think.
Huh. Okay.
Well, but if it can do the chat box, I think, because I think any overhead dialogue does go into the chat box, doesn't it?
Yeah. Wait a minute. I think that's right.
No, I mean like the little chat boxes that pop up, like that you have to press space
the
to
dialogue
advance.
boxes.
Yeah,
Oh, maybe.
that's what I was referring to with that.
Oh, okay.
But if it can do that, then there's no reason it couldn't do the chat box.
Yeah, that's true.
Even if it doesn't do it yet, it might do it. It could do it in the future.
And the dialogue box is nice because now we've got voice. Now I have voice quest. Yay!
Yeah.
Which is what you've
Like,
wanted for years. You weren't
forever.
you weren't wanting like voice acting. You weren't necessarily just wanting some kind of readability to it.
Yeah, exactly. And
for context, the usual reminder that Tan is legally blind screen reader.
Yeah.
So, very early on from the looks of it, but this is definitely something that we'll be watching here. So might have to leave a comment there that this would definitely be useful at some point, though. It looks as though it's already getting a good positive reaction in the subreddit. So
Thanks.
I just wanted to highlight that for listeners who might not have seen that. No. And it underscores, just what's so important about accessibility, and even for folks like yourself who aren't, or who are legally blind, there is an opening opportunity for others as well to utilize this technology, even if it just helps them play the game easier. And that's the number one thing we underscore with accessibility. People usually in the past have thought that you need some sort of impairment to use accessibility features. No. It can be used by anybody just to, make interacting with the game or software product in question easier. So.
Yeah. Ideally, that's the best case scenario, and it happens. Well, it happens a lot in RuneScape, actually. But that's because it's, sometimes it's unintentional.
Yeah. All right, with that, we have your double XP live achievements. Not the wall I was expecting, but still quite a good amount. So starting off, on the 24th, we have Alfie Line with 99 Divination, Hephaestio 5 with 99 Fletching, Nyard with 99 Hunter, Queen RuPaul with 99 Hunter and 99 Divination, Shamrock Soup with 120 Herblore, Zerdones with 120 Ranged. Then on the 23rd, we have Arcane with 120 Rune Crafting, as well as Malinoric, who also got 120 Rune Crafting. Nyard got 99 Herblore. Popo got 120 Construction. Shamrock Soup got 120 farming. Then moving on to the 22nd, we have 82nd Airborne with 120 fletching, and Dane Korai with 99 agility.
Ooh, deep breath. Still on May 22nd, we have Ferox Kratos with 99 cooking and 99 fishing, Keski with 120 rune crafting, Malinoric with 120 construction, Nooni01 with 99 thieving, Pony Picker with 120 divination, and the Outdoors with 120 hunter. May 21st, Dane Karai with 99 construction, J1, J2, J3, 120 divination.
What?
Mayhin, 99 construction, Malinoric again, 120 woodcutting, Moondragon X, 120 herblore, Niard, 99 divination, and Queen RuPaul, 99 cooking.
Nice. Okay, and then continuing on May 20th, we have Alfie Lean with 99 rune crafting and 99 fire making. We have Lotzi with 99 summoning, 99 mining. We have Mad Digger with 120 defense. We have Nard with 99 rune crafting. We have Papo with 120 smithing. We have Queen RuPaul with 99 fire making. And 99 fletching. We also have, let's see, Rippeth 06 with 120 Slayer. Nice. Silly Cat 98 with 120 Slayer. Lady Claw with 120 Constitution on the 19th. And Queen RuPaul is back with another 99 rune crafting on May 18th.
Nicely done, everyone. Nicely done. We'll have more next week. We'll have to have someone else on to bridge that gap for that. But double XP achievements are always a long run, and we're just so glad that you guys are having fun with it and getting through it. And with that, we're going to move on to Pick of the Week. And this one's kind of in the vein of tech news / what I want my computer to be. And we have a new announcement this week for the next Windows 11 update that will bring AI to the system for the first time. And with this, they're beating macOS to doing that, it looks like. They're introducing something called Windows Copilot. And with this, it also brings forth Bing chat plugins to Windows, which allows the content developers to integrate apps within Windows Copilot to serve the users of the Windows operating system. And for what people might not be aware of, when we're talking about Copilot, we're in effect talking about ChatGPT, as has been applied to Bing, being brought right into your desktop. And the idea behind this is that you'll be able to use this to automate certain tasks with the system. You'll be able to say what you want to do with your computer in natural language, and it will just be able to do it, as well as what we have been using things like ChatGPT for the past months or so, brought directly into the Windows operating system. And it integrates seamlessly. They say it works with things like copy-paste, snap assist, snipping tool, personalization, and every other feature that's part of Windows with this. And it goes through what you would be able to do with the Bing Chat and other search-based assistants like that. And I feel like we're just stepping into this edge of all of these AI-enhanced applications that we're going to be seeing from time to time. And I have to admit, based on what Apple announces next week, barring podcast recording, this would be a substantial shift, with a couple of other caveats that would, I think, it would make me feel like using Windows would be an easier thing, I think, on that going forward. And I feel like that's such an interesting thing to say, because for so long, I felt like there was only so much I could do on macOS. But we're at a point now, even when it comes to code development stuff, that the only thing I really, really need macOS for in this day and age is my podcast recording setup. So Windows has come a long way, and there's just so many other things that have been announced with this one that it's actually really starting to look really good. But the AI stuff is just the tip of the iceberg on this. And the other thing I'll say is that this next release is actually going to add support for additional archive formats. So if you ever go on the internet and you get something like a 7-zip file or a RAR file, or if you use things like tar and gzips, you're actually going to be able to open those now on Windows, no questions asked. And you won't need a third-party plugin or program like 7-zip in order to be able to do that. All of that is going to be now native to Windows going forward. So
finally, I can stop pretending that I'm going to pay money for WinRAR. I
Right?
said that joke in pre-show. It was so good I used it again.
I don't know. I can't remember the last time I was looking forward to a Windows release, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, they really have come a long way from the days when Steve Ballmer was throwing chairs around because people dared suggest something not run Windows.
And
They've really come a long way.
yeah, and I don't know. I assume Windows is what you use for your dev stuff, yeah?
Yeah, I'm on Windows.
Okay. And I mean, we're at a point now where it used to be Mac OS was the dev platform of choice for many things, but I feel like you can go either way at this point. I feel like one thing that Windows is missing is something like a package manager like Homebrew or something. I don't know if there's anything like that in the future of Windows.
That actually is mentioned in this article, is this dev home thing is integrating with Winget, which is...
Okay.
There's a couple of competing package managers. Chocolatey is another big one. But Winget seems to be the one that Microsoft has focused on.
Okay, and I wonder what, in terms of availability of packages and whatnot, how that relates to like Homebrew on Mac OS. Obviously, Linux is the king of package managing, but Homebrew is really quite substantive on Mac OS. So interesting times. Interesting times. I'm waiting to dive in primarily to the Copilot stuff on this. So we'll have to see how the integration is, if it turns out to be gimmicky or if it's actually useful, because there's so many Windows features that have been added in the past that were gimmicks that were removed in subsequent releases. So we'll have to just wait and see where this lands. But that's the pick of the week. Bit of a hybrid between an AI pick and weekly tech news. So there you have it. Tanis, what have you been up to on RS?
Man, I've been all over the place with this double XP.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like I said in pre-show, Fresh Start was so good. It was like straight XP to the vein, and this is like coffee, like that was like cocaine. It's like a nice stout cup of joe, which is weird because double XP was such a big deal. But
the people I've been talking to have felt like this one really hasn't resonated that much.
Yeah, and I can tell with just because I bounced around from, I was going to do construction, and then I quickly decided, no, I'm not going to do that. I need proteins to do construction the way I want to do it. So I sold my frames. I made all that pretty decent money.
How'd that go?
Pretty good. It was decent, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I used the plank maker for all of it, so I mean, wasn't out anything. So, yeah, that went well. And then I was like, let's just do some wood cutting, and that's what we're doing now.
Yeah, and conversely on my side, I just really haven't been able to get into this double XP. I've been primarily training on old school, but I'll let Zerdones go first, unless you have anything else, Tannis.
Nope, just wood cutting, the old idols.
All right,
Got that wood.
sounds good. How about you, Zerdones?
To be honest with you, I've been in kind of a holding pattern for the last month or so because I trimmed in April.
Yeah, that's what happens
trimmed
after that.
Yeah, you sort of have to figure out what you're going to do next.
What's your purpose?
Well, so far it's mostly been dailies. It's mostly been Reaper, daily challenges, picking up some stuff from a couple of things from the merchant that I still want, doing daily Serenity posts for my daily disappointment of not getting the agility pet, doing fletching in Dream of Aya for daily disappointment of not getting the fletching pet. And I've been sort of, I guess, sort of my next quote-unquote goal is Reaper Crew. And to that end, I've been sort of chipping away at Zamorak. So I got my first solo Zamorak kill for Reaper, and now I've been sort of slowly chipping away at the dungeon runs to get the dungeon skip.
It's
so
25, right?
Push and rage. It's 25, yeah. I think I'm at 8, maybe 9.
Okay.
So I've been chipping away at that.
And see, that's such an interesting thing, because you already have Master Quest capes, so you trimmed, and then the next logical thing for you to do after that is PVM. It's almost as though you need another skill or something to work on. Another band of progression for that, let's just say.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I said that earlier. The game generally needs more long-term progression mechanics because, once you hit trim, like, what do you have? You have PVM, which, I mean, if you're looking for instrumented goals, you have Ultimate Reaper, Insane Final Boss. There's clue logs. There's 120 all, which holds no interest for me.
5.6, soon to be 5.8.
Yeah, which again, no interest to me. But yeah, like once you get trim, you start running out of reasonably achievable instrumented long-term goals pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I've always said that was an issue with RS.
Yeah.
So.
Now, granted, I realize that this is the first worldiest of first world problems.
Yeah, of course, as it sounds to our listeners out there.
Yes. Oh, look at this guy. He got the hardest.
He doesn't know what to do now.
Yeah, oh la di da. Yes. But
well, it's good we admit that.
Yeah. No, I know how ridiculous I sound.
Yeah. Okay. As for me, dailies in terms of my dinosaur roars and potion flasks. But beyond that, I have been working slowly but surely. Should get it this weekend close to 45 magic on old school for that ever so wonderful Camelot teleport. So I don't need to run from Falador to Camelot and Ardoyan to do the farming runs. I realized, yes, I could purchase teleport tabs, but at this point, it's just easier to have your own law runes and go that way. So that's what I've been doing. And, it's surprising that magic training on old school is actually expensive in terms of chaos runes. So if you have the ability to AFK, you might as well just take, the bare minimum of airstrike or fire strike and just go and splash on seagulls. Dare I say it.
Does old school have the family crest quest?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so I can make that reference.
It has the 59
Chaos
magic.
Gauntlets.
It has the 59 magic requirement behind it still.
Right, okay, so you still need to grind for it, but still, back when Chaos Gauntlets were useful.
Yeah, and
as opposed to today when they're not.
Right, and that's the thing with the Chaos Gauntlets, it upgrades Firebolt into the next tier of spell. So it's actually very, very useful for that.
Right.
So, but yeah, we'll see where we go from there. And always, I guess next week I'll be back to do the Golden Cape hunt thing, and then we'll figure out some stuff to do along that. And quite honestly, I'm glad that it's a Golden Cape hunt and not a Yak Track. I'm still salty after last week's Yak Track discussion, or whatever that was. So
yeah, Yak Track needs some love.
Yeah, you weren't on that episode, were you?
No, I wasn't. I also haven't listened to it back yet, which I need to do.
Yeah, we had an existential crisis almost about where Yak Track lands. So,
I feel like there's a whole discussion about time-limited events and the Jagex strategy about time-limited events that I could go into, but I'm not going to.
No, we're about where we wanted to be time-wise.
That's another show.
So with that, thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back next week. Reminder that if you want to subscribe to the podcast, get it delivered automatically to you. That's the best way of doing that. Visit update.show/subscribe. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Pocket Casts, Amazon, and so many more, wherever you listen to podcasts pretty much. And of course, we're also on YouTube at youtube.com/RSBANDB. That's where we post the video versions of the shows and the nibbles each and every week. Give us a like and subscribe there. It greatly helps the channel out. But with that being said, we'll be back next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. See you then, everyone. Take care.
See you.
Bye.